The young people have begun the rebellion. They have received very little support from other sections of the population, and a continuing attack upon that section of the black community, police brutality, prison brutality, a whole wastage of human creativity. That is why we were against it.
Lots of people on my timeline are saying things like, oh, it's not that bad in England, you know, we don't really have proper racism here. What would you say to that, and why do you think it's been such a big issue?
It's interesting. Yeah, no, it's interesting. You know, there's some black people have said it's actually sometimes the racism is worse here because it's part of the fabric of the system, from border control through to the black kids in schools, through to the police and how they do it. They might not have guns, but it's part of the fabric.
Black boys do very, very well in primary school, but as they begin to get older, so the tail end of primary school and into secondary school, they begin to underachieve.
The way their behaviour is being interpreted, it's always been interpreted as disruptiveness or aggressiveness, and that's what I got sometimes, when actually it's just, if you've got a teacher that can recognise, well, this is just a kid that wants maybe a little bit more attention or push even.
As a black teacher, you know, I can remember when I was teaching primary school and there was this boy in my class and everyone was like, he's a terror, he's so naughty. The child did not misbehave for me.
Yeah,
that child did not.
Experience.
He did not misbehave for me. They acted like he was a hooligan.
And then they would let like little white boys who perm their hair go to school with permed and coloured hair, whereas my son's hair, who was just growing the way that it grows, would get in trouble, get detentions.
When I was growing up, I knew that boys used to have to go and get their hair cut, not to a skin, but just a little bit of an afro, just so that they can, you know, qualify for this stupid haircut.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow him to have it. It was just some no man's land sort of length, because they wouldn't allow him to have it too short.
No.
Allow him to have it too long. So we were just like, it has to be a traditional schoolboy's haircut. So tell me, if you've got straight floppy hair and you've got curly afro hair that grows this way, you don't have hair that grows that way, right? What a traditional haircut is for a white boy is different. So as far as I'm concerned, his hair was neat, tidy, and it's traditional for my culture. Like for my, like, if my dad would look at it and be like, yeah, that's a traditional haircut for a black boy. Teacher tried to make him leave school one day to go and get a haircut.
What I have realised is sometimes it's just pure ignorance, in terms of they just don't understand that the racism's there. You have some of them that know it's there and deliberately want to ignore it and fight it. But what's been a positive thing that maybe I haven't found, but people around me have found by having these conversations with some white people, is that they want to learn.
But it is not, you know, a black person or person of colour's responsibility to hold your hand and take you on this journey. It's something that you have to do yourself.
And these people, whether they be police officers or whether they be just racists and fascists, we reckon it's about time we put an end to this. It's got to stop sometime. And I'm fed up with this marching.
I do think that, you know, class does play a part in this as well, because I've seen it where it's just teachers think, well, you know, this kid's from a working class background, just them getting a C, well, that's good enough for them. They kind of don't see, you know, that, you know, the potential that they could go on to be doctors, whatever job it is, whatever profession it is, they see it as, well, them just getting a C, I've done my job, I've kind of ticked a box here.
She went to a parents' evening, and they were like, oh, yeah, she's doing really well, she's getting C's. And my mum hit the roof. She's like, C's? But they just think that, oh, she's doing well for a black girl.
You can turn around and say to someone that will say, well, you know what, there's a systematic racism at the helm here, but they can say to you, well, no, you just need to work hard and then you'll move yourself up to middle class. And, you know, it's seen as, no, there's no oppression against people because you can always achieve because it's based on how hard you work. And I think that's what kind of class feeds into. And then you're absolutely right when you say that there's no kind of cohesion between working class white people and your working class black people. The kind of the wall, again, I don't want to get too political, but what's happened somehow is they've convinced working class white people that the issue are the working class immigrants and the working class black people in the country. They're the reason that you're not, you know, you haven't got X, Y, and Z.
From what we saw, it looked like an absolute joke. It just looked like mayhem, madness, people just being completely ridiculous. It just seemed like...
And I saw so many memes which just like described it perfectly. It was like, so there was a counter protest to protest against the people that were protesting Black Lives Matter, and but it sounded like they were at a football game, shouting England.
Yeah.
They were there to protect the Winston Churchill statue who fought against the Nazis, but then they were doing the Nazi salute. So
it was a whole lot of confusion.
It just whatever they were trying to achieve, whatever they were trying to achieve
wasn't clear.
I don't think their message came through.
I think what COVID has really highlighted is that the working class are the people that get shit done. You know, those are the people they're the bus drivers, they're the nurses who work the long, mad hours, they're the cleaners, you know what I mean? They're the train drivers, there's the construction workers who do insane hours and lift heavy, you know, they're constantly on their feet all day. Those are the guys who make the country tick.
What's happened is that a substantial section of the chavs that you wrote about have become black. The whites have become black. A particular sort of violent, destructive, nihilistic gangster culture has become the fashion.
White privilege is for me, is quite simple. White privilege is the fact that white folk, it's not saying that they've not had any challenges or, you know, bereavements or any challenges in their life. It's the fact that their colour has not stopped them or hindered them in their life at all. If anything, it's probably helped them.
On Oprah, this lady explained it like this. She said, it's like you're swimming in a stream. If you're white, the current, you're swimming with the current in the same direction as the current, and you're swimming. It's still hard, you're still working hard, you're still exerting a bit of energy, you know, you're still having to do something, but you're swimming with the current. Whereas if you're black, you're in the same stream, but you're swimming against the current.
Like we went to like dinner and they were like, oh, there's no spaces, but there were spaces for like the white people, but there weren't spaces suddenly for us. And he saw the way that they were towards him, and he was like, yeah, but you don't see it because like you're not as black as me, kind of thing. So he's like, you don't get treated the same way I get treated. And it was heartbreaking because it's like, what, he hasn't done anything, he's just been born.
You know, from when I was young, always told, I'm sure Ames, this is the same for you, you know, you need to work twice as hard than your counterparts. You know, it was just drilled in me from an early age, from my parents, that, you know what, life is not fair. You need to be very aware that you're black. And I remember my mum telling me that all the time, and I didn't get it. As a kid, you think, no, because I know there's many households where from an early age they know, do you know what, too much is stacked against me. I don't think school is going to work out.
I've said this to everyone. I said it to Jay, I said it to Michaela, Amani, my mum, is that there's a guy in the White House.
100%. I knew it was going to be that. 100%.
The guy in the White House can cheat on his pregnant wife with a porn star, yet still get in the White House. He can call African countries shitholes, but still get in the White House.
We are a physical representation of our support for George Floyd. Bang on them! Bang on them! We are a physical representation on our support for Sandra Black. We are a physical representation on our support for Trayvon Martin. We are a physical representation of our support for Stephen Lawrence. for Mark Duggan.
Yes, things will get better as the generations go down, but we've also got to be aware that, you know, isolationism within the UK, America, the way they're going on with their president, there's going to be a real push to say, do you know what, we want to hold on to these kind of racist values and these institutions that we've got. So it's kind of being aware that you know, you can have teachers that are racist, basically, but they can go and teach, and you'd never know.
If we're going to be persistent and consistent, because with, like, say, our parents and our grandparents, yeah, they did, you know, make certain noise and things, and made certain movements, but then they were very complicit with things, because they, you know, like my grandparents, like my gram, she used to be like, oh, my mum can't have dreadlocks, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's like they played into their hands, because it's like we were being what they wanted us to be, because that was what we should have done. So whereas now I'm like, no, you can wear your hair the way you want to wear your hair, because get your education, but you don't have to conform to what they want you to be.
I hope that we'll see small changes sooner. I think things like curriculum change in the UK might come along sooner than we think.
So I think for, you know, in our kind of pocket of, you know, living in where we are kind of thing, I think it could possibly be at least another generation. But I think it's about the fear of power and the perception of power being taken away, or at least influence anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
As teachers, we have a responsibility to be bringing that to our classroom, to our students, and making sure that, you know, they are the next generation. So if we impact them and make them aware of this issue and make them aware of the inequalities that Black people face in particular, then hopefully they'll grow up and they just won't accept it when they see it.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! It's from the goodness of your mind.